So you want to build out a Sony Mirrorless kit from the ground up. What is good, YouTube? It's Now Camera Guy back at again with another video for you. This is going to be kind of like an educational type strategic video for those of you who are just starting out, who might be in high school, might just be getting going, and you're interested in building a kit from a Sony Mirrorless system. Now, there is some ground rules to this particular challenge that we're doing. I did a previous video building out a Canon DSLR kit, which you can find over here. The goal was to start with a low-end DSLR and then work your way up by doing gigs, selling items, and eventually getting yourself up to a full-frame system to be able to shoot weddings in order to make more money, basically to become a photographer, right? A professional wedding photographer in that case. So how do we do this with Sony Mirrorless? Now, the strategy for Sony Mirrorless is going to be very different than the Canon, because with the Canon system, let's go ahead and jump here really quick, or actually I won't. What we did was, my goal was to get two full frame bodies and acquire a 24-70 and a 70-200 f2.8. That was a lot cheaper to do, okay? Let's just put it this way. For Sony, it is much more expensive. Their 24-70 of 2.8 G Master and 70-200 are very, very expensive. So what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on getting a 35 and an 85 and two A7 II bodies and a couple of flashes, some memory cards, and some batteries to kind of call it all said and done. That's our goal. But the question is, if you had to start with only $300, which Sony NEX or mirrorless body would you get? So that's what we're going to dive into right now, and that's what this video is about. So let's go ahead and tackle this monstrosity that we're doing. So I've kind of done some research already. The starting camera that I'm going to go with is the Sony NEX-6, okay? You might want to look at the Sony NEX-5. And then what I did was I went to my sold listings section to see what the going rate for these are. Now, what I want to do right now is do portraits. That's my objective. So what I want to do is get this camera for about $200, get a manual focus prime lens. And the reason why, you might be saying, Miss, that one camera guy, why aren't you getting a autofocus lens? Because it's $200 to $300 for a 50mm f1.8. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. We're B&H Photo, type in Sony 50mm f1.8, and then you'll see quickly that they go for about $250 to $300. Now we can skimp out and get the full frame version, which is fine. That's $200. So we would need to raise $200, which we don't have, unfortunately. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pick up, again, the Sony NEX-6 for about $200. So let's jump into my chart here. It's kind of set up a little bit. We're going to go ahead and tack on the Sony NEX-6. That's going to be one unit of that. The price is $200. So there's $200 total. This is our running total, $200 here. Our starting money is $300. That's kind of what our working amount is. I'm just putting that as a note. Then we're going to go ahead and add a Makey lens. So let's jump to eBay again over here. And we're going to go ahead and type in Makey. By the way, there's other ways you can do this. You don't have to follow my exact route. You can adapt the lens. Maybe you already own a lens. But this is all about how I would approach it. So I'm familiar with this lens because I've used it, so I'm going to go with it. So it's about $82.99 for that lens. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to my chart here. I'm going to go ahead and add the Makey 50mm f2, one unit of that. I'll say $85 to round it up. And my total here, cool, it's $285. And then I need to go ahead and add a SD card. So SD cards, I'm not going to look it up right now because it's pretty obvious in terms of pricing. So let's go ahead and navigate over here. SD card. We'll get one unit of that. Let's just say they're about $15 a pop. And that's going to put us at $300. And now we can actually start doing some portraits. This is the point where we have to make some very important decisions about our objective. I need to start as quickly as possible getting enough gear to shoot maybe a wedding. Now, if I was going to shoot a wedding or an event, I need to have at least two reliable, well, semi-reliable camera bodies. If I only add one, the risk is too high. What if my camera stops working? So I need to get two Sony NEX-6 bodies. So I'm going to need $200 there. I want to go ahead and try and pick up either a 35mm f1.8 or the 30mm Sigma, and also add on either the 50mm or the 85mm. I think I would go with the 85mm f1.8 to get some nice telezoom range on that prime lens. Okay, so that was a weird word. That didn't make any sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and tackle that. We need $200 for the NEX body, and then we need about $400 for the other lens, and maybe another $600. We need to raise $1,000, guys. No, actually, like $1,200. So what we'll do is we will work our way there. So we have our basic kit already. We can do some portraits. Now, last time a couple of people asked, like, hey, who's going to pay $75? Because that's kind of how we priced it last time. It is just a value. You could start at $25, $50, whatever it happens to be. Build a portfolio and get better and charge those prices. The idea is that this activity that we're doing is supposed to span an entire year. So it's a game of hustle and working really hard, buying and selling some equipment in order to get to our goal. So let's go ahead and jump back and let's take a look at this right now. So let's say, for example, we're going to do some portraits. Let's just assume $75. I'm not saying they're all going to be $75, but the problem is we need to raise enough money in order for us to be able to buy some equipment. All right, let's see here. I'm going to keep going because we need to raise about, I don't know, $1,200. And there we go. Okay, so we just shot, let me just check this real quick. We had to shoot 16 portraits at $75. Now you could mix it up and do something different in between, but I don't have the equipment and gear that I would be comfortable in using at this time. And this is the thing about Sony Mirrorless, is that it's really hard. It's a fine line about how you want to approach this, but you're gonna have to hustle about 16 portrait sessions and span it out in the next few months and get some gigs going in order for you to raise the money. So now let's go ahead and go shopping. All right, we are now ready to go in and spend. Let's take a quick look at our Excel sheet here really quick to kind of explain. So we have our items here. We have our jobs that we've done here. Man, we've done a lot of those already. We're going to get really good really fast, and that's always good. Next is our kind of our spending money. We have $1,200 to spend. We spent $300. That was our investment money. So now let's go ahead and research. We need to go ahead and add a second NEX body. That's important to us right now. So an NEX-6, we're going to go ahead and change the unit price to 2. Right? And then we're going to go ahead and tack on an additional memory card. That's going to be 2. And then we're going to go ahead and tack on a Sigma 30mm f1.4, which is going to be really handy for our wide end on our lens. So let's go ahead and do some research on that. Sigma 30mm f1.4. It looks like it's going for $330. So let's go ahead and add that on there. We want one of those. $330. Okay, so now we have a 30mm, a 50mm, 2 SD cards, and I mean, technically we want to go ahead and add a couple of batteries, so let's just do that now, just for the sake of consideration here. So let's say, for example, we want to add some Wasabi batteries. They come in packs of 2, and we're going to go ahead and buy 2 of those packs, and they go for about 20 bucks each. Okay, so now we're getting really realistic here with kind of this setup. So now we have 4 spare batteries, we have 2 SD cards, which is kind of risky still, but that's what it is right now. And then 2 bodies and that lens. So let's see how much money we have left. Okay, so we have about $615 for spending money. So we've already added our Sigma, we've added our second body, and now let me go ahead and add batteries on here. We're going to add our Sony 85mm f1.8 FE. Okay, and that's going to transfer over to our full frame stuff later when we transition. We want one of those, and that's going for about $550 at the moment. So we have $65 left, and I'm going to go ahead and tack on a really darn cheap flash. Or what I can do is do one more portrait job. So what I'm going to do is jump over here and let's just hustle in, do another portrait session. And now we have about $140 working money range. Let's just do one more just for the sake of it. Now we have $200 that we can work with. All right, so now what I want to do next is I want to go ahead and pick up some Godox flashes because we're going to start doing some events. So I'll do Godox, Sony flash, and I want to get 2 of these. So we're going to have to get, they go about $100 each. They have high-speed sync, 1/8,000th of a second. I'm going to feel more comfortable if I have those camera systems with me. I don't know if it's actually compatible with the NEX-6. It probably isn't. Oh, well, I don't know for sure. That's why I'm thinking about picking one up. So anyway, Godox flash, you get the idea. Well, if we have to, we'll go manual flash. You get me? So let's just say $100 each. And now we have 15 bucks left, and we need to get some cheap batteries, which we will, I guess. Let's just assume we did. So here we are. We are ready to rock and roll. We've got two NEX-6 bodies. We've got a Sigma 30 and an 85. What I'll do is I'll have two separate camera bodies on me for the event, and I'll have two flashes for each of those bodies. Maybe just the 30, but I just wanted to have a backup flash. Has some Wasabi batteries, and we can start doing some wedding gigs. So now let's go ahead and start figuring out our next step. Our next step is to go ahead and raise enough money to go ahead and first add one. All we really need to do at this point is add two full frame bodies and add a Sony 35 f1.8 or f1.4 Zeiss lens. That's the one I want to go for. So the A7 IIs are going to cost us about $1,300 each. So we need to raise $2,600 for that. And then we're going to need to do like another $1,400 for the 35. And that's going to be pretty much it. So we need to raise $2,600 plus another $1,400. That's $4,000. All right, that might not be too bad. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our monies and see where we're at so far. So you've hustled a lot, you've done a lot of portraits, and now we're down to some weddings, right? So events. And let's say we start off with $500 events. Okay. And then we start doing a few $1,000 weddings. We're able to kind of haggle them to do a couple of $1,000 wedding events. And then finally, we are able to reach our $4,000. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go ahead and tack on a Sony A7 II. Let's just go ahead and quickly check that up really quick. And that's going for $1,300 as I thought. So let's take a look here, Sony A7 II. Now we can actually sell some of our stuff off at this point. So say Sony A7 II, right? We're going to get 2 units of that, $1,300 each. And we still have $1,415 left. And then we want to go ahead and pick up the, actually at this point, we just sell off, we'll just go ahead and remove the units on the NEX-6. We don't need that anymore. And then we don't need the Sigma 30 anymore. Assuming we can sell it back at the actual price, we have $2,145 left. Then what I'm going to do is go ahead and find the Sony Zeiss 35mm f1.4. All right, here we go. Wow, it's $1,500. Good thing. Okay, $1,500. All right, that's kind of the going price. The game is I'm just going to go based on whatever price it's there, and that's what I'm going to roll with, okay? So Sony Zeiss 15mm 35, sorry. f1.4, you get it. Get one of those, and that is $1,500. And I still got some money left over. I would probably go ahead and either get some extra batteries, a couple extra memory cards, and we're all set to go. Okay. Wow. That was a lot of hustling in the very beginning, which might not be a bad thing to build out a Sony kit. Let's go ahead and talk about the theory or the concept behind it. If I was going to shoot any event and I didn't want to go ahead and have a 70-200, I would be comfortable with a 35 and an 85. So at this point, I now have two full frame bodies, one with a 35 and one with an 85. The 35 is going to be good for your groups and your wides, and you get some nice environmental portraits, and the 85 is going to give you some decent reach. Ideally, I would probably try and add a 70-200 f2.8 because it's going to be so much more versatile. But right now, we're still on that hustle and that grind. I know what some of you are going to ask, how do you hustle and how do you get these gigs? It has a lot to do with just going on social media, setting up accounts, having a profile on Instagram, for example, and Facebook, and reaching out to people in your neighboring communities. If they allow senior portraits and you can do your senior portraits, try to find customers. You just have to hustle. That's the only way I can think about it if you're starting off from nothing and you want all of your funds to come purely from your photography. Some of you are going to ask, hey, I do video. Well, you can do wedding videography. You can start with the NEX-6, it records video, but you got to be really careful with that. So you might want to start with portraits, and then once you get maybe, for example, go to an Alpha 6300, so don't get the A7 II, get the Alpha 6300, maybe 2 bodies of those, and then get a couple of lenses like the 35-85, or even some manual prime lenses, and then start doing wedding videography, which you might be able to charge a little bit more or charge similar, about $1,000, $500 to $1,000, depending on where you live. And that is it, folks. That's what I would do if I was going to build out a kit, it is so much more difficult. I really recommend you check out the Canon build kit. I'll link it down in the description because that one's way different than this one, the approach. But what I want to do, like, I'm really curious, how would you approach this? You had $300 to start, and basically what lenses and camera bodies would you go to get to the full frame? And what would you do to try and get to the A7R2? We'd have to hustle even more than that. So yeah, Sony stuff is expensive. I just wanted you to know that. That was the whole point of this video. Folks, if you found this helpful or educational in some way, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And with that said, I'm your host, That One Camera Guy, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.